Welcome to your essential business briefing for the week of March 16th, 2026. Whether you're just launching a startup or you're trying to navigate international trade, the UK business landscape is, well, it's always changing. Staying ahead of that curve is absolutely crucial, so let's just dive right into the key updates you need to know this week.
So what's really on the radar for you this week? We've broken down all the latest news into the essential insights you're going to need to navigate the weeks ahead and, just stay prepared.
We're covering 5 key areas. We'll kick things off with the foundations of starting a business, then we'll take a deep dive into some potential tax changes down in Wales. After that, we'll look at the new realities of remote work, some critical financial deadlines you can't miss, and a pretty major update on UK-EU trade.
Okay, first up, for anyone out there with that entrepreneurial spark, let's talk about turning that great idea into a reality. Honestly, getting the foundations right from day one, it can save you a world of headaches down the line. Think of these 7 points as the bedrock of your new company. Getting these things right from the get-go, like your legal structure, your accounting systems, and especially your cash flow planning, it isn't just about ticking boxes. No, it's about building a resilient business that can actually grow without being tripped up by some really costly and frankly avoidable mistakes. Let's just zoom in on that first point for a second. For most people, it really boils down to this choice: sole trader or limited company. As a sole trader, things are definitely simpler. You just pay income tax on your profits. A limited company, though, that's a bit different. It pays corporation tax, and it gives you liability protection, which creates this legal wall between you and the business. The crucial thing is to really think about your expected income and how much risk you're comfortable with before you jump in.
All right, shifting gears now from business basics to national policy. There's an independent report that was commissioned by the Welsh government, and it's exploring the future of income tax devolution in Wales. This could have some pretty significant implications for businesses and individuals there. Now, to understand this whole thing, we need to get our heads around a key concept, the Block Grant Adjustment, or BGA. Essentially, when a devolved government like Wales collects its own taxes, the UK government reduces its central funding by a similar amount. But how that reduction is calculated, well, that's at the very heart of this debate.
So the report lays out 4 different options. They range from just keeping the current system to going for full devolution, kind of like what they have in Scotland. Each one of these models presents a different balance, right? On one hand, you get greater policy freedom for the Welsh government. But on the other, you also get greater exposure to financial risks if tax revenues don't meet forecasts. It's a really strategic choice, and there's no single best answer.
Now let's pivot to a change that has affected pretty much every business out there, the massive shift to remote and hybrid work. It's so much more than just a trend. It actually comes with some very real legal duties for you as an employer.
Just look at this number from the Office for National Statistics. Over a third of all workers in Great Britain are now working either fully remotely or in a hybrid model. This isn't some niche issue anymore. It's a core part of the modern workplace, and employers really need to adapt.
So what does adapting actually look like? Well, the health and safety executive is reminding employers that their legal duties for safety extend right into the home office. They're highlighting 3 key areas: mental health and stress, making sure people are using screen equipment safely, and the general working environment at home. The good news is they're stressing that it's all about having simple conversations, not doing intrusive home inspections or anything like that.
Okay, time for some urgent, practical stuff. The end of the tax year is coming up fast on April 5th, and there are several key deadlines and changes that you absolutely need to have on your calendar.
This timeline lays out your key payroll obligations, from sending your final report and updating records for the new tax year on April 6th to getting those P60s out by the end of May and reporting expenses by early July. Meeting these deadlines is just essential for staying compliant with HMRC and avoiding any potential penalties.
And here's another deadline to watch, this one involving intellectual property. The Intellectual Property Office is increasing its fees for the first time in 8 years. A trademark application, for example, is jumping by 25%, going from £170 up to £205.
So, the crucial point is this. The new higher fees kick in on April 1st, 2026. If you're even thinking about applying for a patent, trademark, or design, getting that application fully submitted before that date could save you a good bit of cash. And remember, saving it as a draft doesn't count. It has to be in.
And finally, let's look across the channel at a major development in UK-EU trade. Negotiations are underway for a new agrifood deal that aims to make trade easier,
cheaper, and faster for businesses in both Britain and Northern Ireland.
And here's why this matters so much. Since 2018, UK agri-food exports to the EU have fallen by a staggering 22%. To put that into perspective, that's a real terms loss of about £4 billion to businesses. This new deal is designed to start reversing that trend.
At the heart of the whole deal is what's called an SPS agreement. What that means is it will allow for a much smoother flow of goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, basically removing the need for most of those regulatory checks and all that paperwork. It's really about protecting the UK's internal market while also preserving Northern Ireland's vital access to the EU single market.
So, from structuring your startup and navigating new tax systems, to managing a remote workforce and preparing for new trade rules, the ground is constantly shifting underneath our feet. The key takeaway from all of this is really just proactive planning. So, the question I'll leave you with is this. Looking at all these developments, is your business truly ready for what comes next?